Good morning. It's Thursday again, and it's Blabbing for Britain, episode 34. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Stephen.
Yay! Right, okay. And the weather's with us this week, isn't it? It's a lot better. No?
It's peeing down here.
Oh, God, we've got the sun out.
And I am delighted because
right.
I'm fed up of carrying watering cans up and down the garden.
every cloud has a silver lining sort of thing?
Definitely today.
Yes, yeah. Well, it's growing weather, isn't it? I really don't know what's happening on Blab. But somebody asked the question the other day, does anybody know what's going on? And I just said there's no communication at all. Nobody's any idea what's going on. There are lots of shows taking place on here, us included, but not as many as have been. And I was talking to Marcus and Fraser, and they were saying, you know, it's got to be quieter. And looking at the top of the screen at the moment, I can attest that it's got to be quieter. It's just me and thee.
Where are our regulars? Where is Mr. Silk? Where is Mr. Scotland?
Yeah, people may well drop in later. In good news, good morning, John. In good news, Andy Murray's still British.
Is he?
It was a brilliant tennis match yesterday, and he, well, in the final set, in the deciding set, he tore his opponent apart, and just showed that it's not like watching Tim. When you're watching Andy, you know that he's going to win. When you watch Tim, you thought he might lose. So he's still British, and is now in the semi-finals, and they will make the final on Sunday, where he will probably be playing Roger Federer. So that should be a good thing to watch this Sunday.
That doubles?
No, it's a single. This is the men's singles. Sorry, John. It's the men's singles at Wimbledon. And yesterday was the quarterfinals. Tomorrow is the semi-finals. That sort of thing. Where they knock a ball backwards and forwards.
It's not quite as bad as cricket, Stephen, but it's...
Oh man, it's sport. It's sport. It's gladiators, but they use tennis rackets instead of nasty stuff.
Like watching your windscreen wipers.
No, it's not. The match lasted 4 hours. The stamina these guys have is just incredible. You know, to go at the pace that they do for 4 hours. And, yeah. Anyway, so Andy's still British. And I think also that Wales are still British, despite having lost to Portugal last night, 2-0. I think Wales will forever be British. Did you catch the match? No. Okay. No, neither did I.
I dipped in 2 or 3 times. I was out and about.
Yeah.
And I dipped in 2 or 3 times on the internet, on the phone, and saw that suddenly it had gone downhill very rapidly, having been not, a fairly even first half. And then I found out on News at 10 that it was a 2-0 loss.
Yeah, 2 goals in 3 minutes. But when you hear that Nani and Ronaldo scored them, you realise, Wales have got Gareth Bale, but there's just too much talent in the Portuguese team.
Did they really miss the 2 that were suspended as well? That was the question.
Yeah, they did. They did. I'm told so. I mean, I enjoy watching football, but I'm not sort of totally clued up on it. But the interesting match is the one that's next up, which is France versus Germany, which should be quite a match.
And, so, mentioning football, you mentioned that word football.
I did, yeah.
Get your bloody hands off Andy Westwood, would you?
No, we want the best team in the Premiership. We've got to, I mean, we've got a bit of money to spend this time.
It's about the only decent player we had last season.
No, they are gearing themselves up to have to stay up. They're not messing about, which is good to hear. Yeah. Right. Okay. This is an unusual situation. I think we. Yes. Right. What's next? What can we talk about next?
How's your allotment doing?
Oh, yes. Can we talk about something else, please?
Yeah.
No.
That's fine.
The allotment is actually in a meadow.
All right.
And when somebody leaves a plot, the meadow takes over again, and I'm surrounded, and therefore mine is suffering. And I haven't put enough time into it this year, has to be said. I've got plants in the ground, and we had some spuds the other day, and doubtless we'll have carrots and beetroot and runner beans and all sorts of things. But we have
pop in.
Yeah, join us, Liam. We are rambling for Britain this morning. Yeah. Oh, the other thing I've got coming, of course, is on the 24th of July is a 10K, which I'm supposed to be training for. Good morning, Liam.
Hello, Liam.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
All right. Now, my broadband has been very bad this last while, so.
Wait, looks pretty all right at the moment.
Yeah, no, but the problem is when you're in a monopoly provider position, you don't have an awful lot of choice in terms of what they do. I had a response from some automated system to say that they had checked the data stream and it was in accordance with their specification, without defining what the specification was or whatever. So it's been a bit better today, So how are things?
Oh, well, it's nice to see some people pop in. We were beginning to wonder if Blab had died on us. But audience-wise, I think it is beginning to thin.
It's beginning to which?
Thin. The audiences on shows are getting smaller and smaller, not just on ours, but on other people's.
Do you have any, is that, do you think it's because of the summer, or do you think it's because of other developments? Or?
I think people are moving to other products.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just looking at Facebook Live a few minutes ago, and, again, that seems to be an interesting space also, If
you want to broadcast and you want to broadcast on your own, Facebook Live works well. I mean, you just pick up a copy of OBS or VMix and you can broadcast from your desktop. And it's a simple two-step process. Tell it the camera, tell it on VMix, you just link up to Facebook and that's it. And you just press stream and you're away. You're actually live on Facebook.
Right.
Obviously,
that's it. I've seen, but OBS is not a platform rather than a product, is it?
It's a product. It's a piece of software. It's exactly like VMix. The difference between VMix and OBS is free, open source, and written by lots of intelligent programmers. And VMix is paid, but $60 paid. And of course, you get the benefits of that, which are that it's totally stable and it's one team of programmers. And we could go on about the open source versus, private enterprise for a long while. But I love those. VMix has a 60-day trial, so you can try it out for 60 days. So just put it on your desktop, link up your camera and mic, and then Facebook. That's it. In fact, there are quite a few videos out there which show you how to do it. Just gone to YouTube, type VMix. Then VMix have got their own site. And, What do you think of Facebook Live, John?
I've watched a few of them. I saw Kevin juggling his pineapples the other day.
Is that a euphemism, or is that exactly what?
No. Kevin did a Facebook Live with some pineapples.
Oh, okay.
And the pineapples were the customer.
Right. Morning, Stephen. If you want to join us on air.
Customer, blah, blah, and it was all about interaction and things like that. So, yeah. It was
pineapples. Juggling pineapples. Yeah. Okay.
I suspect they had them for tea afterwards.
No, not. No, I was just listening to a radio program, and the radio program was saying that he was with someone on, and the interviewee was describing something. They said it was on Facebook Live. So then that just brought me in there, and I thought that was an interesting mix that someone could turn the radio broadcast into giving some video element on it.
Morning. Morning, Stephen. Yeah,
Hiya, Stephen.
It is an interesting. This is like our first show. Everybody's dropping in.
I just wanted to know how regular you are.
I remember the first show.
Sorry,
I heard from Andrew
this
this
was
morning.
our first show.
He's out on his bike, Andrew Wilcox, and he's promising that he will try and pop in from 4G while on his bike. So perhaps we'll see him in a bit. I did tell him on Facebook that he mustn't stream and don't stream and cycle was the hashtag I sent him. So, how is Devon, Stephen?
Well, it's very pleasant this morning. Actually, the weather's been quite good. I thought that, you know, we were going to get blown away with rain and all those things when I came over from Turkey, but it's actually been pretty good over here so far, touch wood. And in Turkey, they're roasting apparently. So it looks like we've got the better deal at the moment.
It's raining where I am.
Oh, that's Birmingham, isn't it? I mean,
I'm very happy because I'm fed up of carrying my watering cans down the garden to water the plants down the garden.
Yeah.
So whereabouts in North Devon are you?
I'm in Heartland, which is kind of the last village that you come to before the Atlantic. Sort of out in that corner, the Bristol Channel, sort of one side, and the Atlantic's the other. I don't know. Is it the Atlantic, Liam, or is it the Irish Sea? I'm not sure.
I presume down in Cornwall it's the Irish Sea.
Well, so. It probably is. Yeah. I didn't want to upset you.
Right.
Well, I think Liam's probably diagonally opposite, aren't you, Liam? From there, aren't you? Up in the north.
I'm on the west coast of Donegal, just looking into the Atlantic. So I definitely know that's the Atlantic.
Oh, right. Okay.
There's nothing else out there, guys, you know. Else out there. And, you know, we had the weather was very good up to maybe a month ago. And then, you know, it's been a very bad June. I mean, really, it's like a wintry sort of time. It's nice today. But, I mean, in the couple of months up to May, I mean, it was certainly fabulous and it augured well for a long hot summer, but I'm not sure it's been like that either in the centre of England either, John, is it?
It's been crap, basically.
Yeah, it's been broken everywhere, I think, you know.
Yeah.
But,
is that a Yorkshire Terrier?
Indeed, even in Wiltshire.
That's him, yeah.
Is it a Yorkie? No. Oh, right.
York.
Okay.
Say hello.
A mini York. Yeah,
it's a mini.
Yeah. I grew up with those.
Yeah.
My parents had them for years. We had about kind of 6 generations of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy is he's just coming up to 10 years old now. He's he's got some heart problems, I think. So I think they say that about the purebreds, that they can have sort of problems that the crosses or a little bit of mix in them seems to give him a bit of strength, you know. But look at he's doing his bit for his supper anyway, so he is. He earns his keep, you know.
They're quite aggressive, I think. Yeah.
I know this guy. He doesn't bark as much in the last 6 months. Before he used to bark a lot at everybody, except his owner, my woman. He doesn't bark at her, but he didn't bark at me. But he hasn't been barking much now. But he would never have. The biggest problem if there's little kids around it, the kids run away, and then he chases them, and then the thing can become a bad conversation, you know. So you just have to be very. And the other thing, like little kids, obviously take dogs or toys. You know, you can kick them and throw them around the place. Yeah. So he just, I suppose. But with adults around it, and all he ever does, he just wants to be picked up and sit in somebody's lap like that. So he realizes what you need to do. He doesn't have any concerns about morals or anything like that, or ethics. He just goes for whatever sorts his needs out right away, you know. Yeah. If you have food with you, he's your best friend. It's as simple as that, you know.
Yeah.
So how about your cross-Atlantic experiences, Stephen and John? And the last time I was connecting with you, were having a couple of those cross-national blabs? How did they work out, or did they take off and all? Or
right, when we did the 5 o'clock blab, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, did you do any more of them? Did you?
The one we did was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, we haven't done any more, actually. It's possibly something that might be worth a try again, or maybe it's fire talking for Britain that we try in the afternoon.
Well, yeah, and the situation. I've got there are a lot of blabbing groups on Facebook, and one of them is Born to Stream Live, and we both have a friend in Leland, John. Yep. And Leland's been around on Blab since we have, and he used to work with Jonathan Tripp until they had an exchange. And he and I now run a show, because it's strange you mentioned the Atlantic. Then we now run a show called Across the Pond, and that's every Tuesday at 5 o'clock on Fire Talk, and that's basically Leland and I talking about things which unite the US and the UK, and we talk about all sorts of things, just nattering for about 45 minutes, joined by Bob Tomlin.
I think Stephen's frozen. Stuck in time by the look of things.
John, where did Stephen say he was? Does he have that on Blab or on
another?
Fire Talk. You've come back alive, Stephen.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'm going to keep coming and going this one. I've got this feeling the internet in Wiltshire is having fun. Yeah, so we've got the show on Fire Talk. Now, the thing about Fire Talk, let's get up to that for a moment, is that you don't have to log in. You remember back in the day when you used to get the audience just walking in off the street because they found the tweet and they didn't have to sign in.
Frozen again by the look of things. Yeah,
so Fire Talk is Fire Talk another
well, it's the same on Fire Talk.
It is very similar to Blab, but I think it's actually more stable than Blab.
All right.
I think the biggest problem is the Blab engineers to play with their handheld version, and Fire Talk has been around a while and is there, but Stephen's more into it. I was supposed to have a Fire Talk on Tuesday, but I'm afraid I didn't turn up for it because I'm having a lot of problems with mum and dad at the moment, so I didn't get there. So,
and is Fire Talk on devices as well as PCs, or?
Stephen went to answer you, but he froze before I could get it out.
Anyway, guys, I didn't speak to you since Brexit, so you are now foreigners.
Sorry?
Every time
I haven't spoken to you since Brexit, so you are now foreigners.
We're not. Nothing's happened. What's happened? Apart from people panicking, nothing has actually happened. We haven't done anything. We haven't said anything. We haven't notified them we're leaving.
Tell me this, were you surprised? I mean, just to say to you,
surprised.
I was very surprised.
You're not kidding. I really expected Remain to win.
Yeah, I mean, I was, it was bonfire night where I live, and I'm not sure that it's like that everywhere, but on the West Coast here, there's a tradition that people once a year burn all their stuff. So all over the countryside, you can see these bonfires lighting up on that night. So later that night, we came in and the count had just started, and it was up to about 1 million votes for leave and 950,000 for remain by the time I went to bed. And I couldn't believe it when I woke up in the morning. And I questioned myself, like, I don't know a lot about the Brexit issue, but it just showed the complacency of thought that I had to presume that no one would ever leave something like the European Union. So I'm wondering, was that your reaction, both of you, or?
Right. Stephen, could we ask how you voted? Because that might
me.
Did you vote for? Yeah.
No. I'm quite happy to discuss it. I voted to stay. I mean, basically, I think the idea of federal Europe is a good one. So I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem. I mean, I think that the Leave campaign actually do make some very valid points. I mean, I think that there is a lot wrong with the way in which the European Union works as a system. And so in that sense, I mean, I was kind of torn. I think actually, if the vote had been rather than whether we stay or whether we leave, if it had been whether we keep the EU as it is or whether we thoroughly kind of turn it upside down. I mean, I think if there had been an EU referendum and said, you know, do we actually need to rethink the way that things are done, I think most of the EU would have voted for change. You know, and I think that to a large measure explains the popularity of the Leave vote. I mean, there are some nonsenses. For example, you know, the European Parliament building where people actually vote being in Strasbourg, and the EU MEPs being in Brussels, and the whole lot having to be put on a train with all the documents every month and transported down there. I mean, it's absolutely a nonsense. And apparently even the MEPs would like to change it, but actually because of the way the constitution has been structured, they can't. So, I mean, this is kind of nonsensical. So I think the Leave campaigners actually make a number of valid points. Not the ones on immigration, but a lot of other ones. But, you know, I mean, I think the way forward is to have a federated Europe that's organized in a more kind of simple and streamlined way.
Yeah, I suppose the thing that struck me is, from my understanding of how England works, I believe you don't have a constitution, and referendums are not something that I don't know whether you've ever had referendums, whereas at least there is an illusion in our democracy that we control our constitution through referendums, which we have on a relatively, we have them relatively often. And so I suppose we're led to believe we have some say in this matter. But immediately in our referenda in the last number of years, the vast majority of them have all come down at the 59 or the 51.49%, which is the same as the Brexit one. So you have very much an evenly divided society, which I think is interesting because, wow, you know, if you have an evenly divided society, it seems to be very hard to wonder how you can go, and anybody can go forward. Because, you know, at best, you've only slightly over half the population supporting that direction. And then the second thing that interested me was that, you know, I just presumed that everyone would stay. It didn't appear to affect me. There's no effect I could have on it. And then you listen to the sort of emotive arguments like the 350 million a day and the immigrants, the sort of things that seem to have controlled people's votes. And, you know, you just wonder about, I read an article somewhere about democracy being based on rational thinking. So when you don't have rational thinking at play, democracy is a joke, you know. Because it is, like you said, John, nothing has happened. Well, for me, for example, I mean, if I drive a very short distance, you know, my euro is worth 10% more than it was last week in practical day-to-day terms. I mean, that is different for me.
I did clarify my comment in the side and said that nothing formal has happened with regard to leave.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah.
No, dude, I mean, we're not feeling, as you say, the currency is definitely affected. And people going on holiday were paying a lot more this year. And that's straight away. There's nothing we can do about that because the currency is going to stay depressed until we actually get some plans, and we don't seem to have those at the moment. It was for everybody who voted Remain, as yourself, Liam. We woke up on the morning, we just couldn't believe it. I mean, I know a lady who woke up at 4 o'clock, switched the television on, and found that we voted Brexit and then just switched off again and switched on again to make sure she was right. It was that sort of thing. The country, you know, the far right pressed all the right buttons and had all the right slogans. They had the better slogans, they had better motivation, and the far right just basically, you know, had their day. Now, whether they'll still have their day if Mrs. Theresa May becomes Prime Minister, I don't know. And I hope
the latest about the Mishcon, I can't pronounce the flipping second, but the people who handled Diana's divorce from Prince Charles, they're currently taking action that will force a vote in Parliament. It's called the Ray or something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Okay, now what we must we should sort of discuss, as Kevin rightly said, is the fact yesterday that after a long wait, the Chilcott report came out on the Iraq war, and our thoughts. I think that Kevin has.
I think we need to give Stephen's internet some Weetabix, don't we?
Okay. Although I might deny it, we should not have gone to war, and we made a mess of it when we left after the war, because the rise of ISIS is a direct result of our interventions.
I mean, Stephen said next stop impeachment, but can you actually impeach somebody if they've left office?
But I mean, do these questions?
No, you can.
Again, the thing that strikes me about all these questions is that when you even start asking the question you've asked John about, can you impeach someone? We start to realize it's like we're in a vehicle that has been driven 50 miles down the road with us supposedly in control, and we're asking ourselves questions like, which direction did we head off in the first place 50 miles later? And that's the point I made about Brexit, that for me, it proves to me that I take everything for granted. I just wake up in the morning and I assume things. And from what I've seen of what Blair has said, I mean, a number of years ago in relation to the Iraqi war, people just woke up and they assumed or presumed that the government would be doing the right thing, and people just went along with it. And now, many years later, and part of the problem I have is that the feedback analysis is taking so long. I mean, the Chilcott report, I mean, the problem with it is this has taken so long that you're now then asking the obvious question, John, can you rise somebody from the dead, try them and hang them? So the delay, and in our modern era where we're communicating in real time, for example, isn't it interesting that the feedback loop in all of those big decisions is so long? So we're really, you know, the sense of powerlessness is what I'm interested in. You know, I've read somewhere to say that Blair couldn't be tried for war crimes because they can only be tried for crimes on the field or something like that. So again, there might be some technicality around it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, also I see Kevin saying that Blair looked nervous in his apology yesterday. And I wonder, like, is this nervous something that his PR guy told him, you better look nervous just to play the game here?
You know? He's had good PR people over the years, and that you could well be right there, Liam. I don't know that it should be that we can believe what politicians do, because that's what we elect them to do, and to act in our best interests. And every time things like this happen, we realise that they don't.
Well, I think, yeah, and, I mean, I think it's not simply that politicians are just human. I mean, there was an article in the I think it was in the Independent the other day, in which somebody was talking about what's his name, Tony Benn's son. What's his name?
Hillary
Benn. And what she said was that, you know, the first time she went into into the Commons in order to kind of hear something, Hilary Benn sort of rose to his feet and said, well, I'd like to say, you know, how wonderful it is that, you know, we've got practically a full house tonight. And she said, well, there's only 6 people here. Why has he said that? And the response was, well, it's for Hansard. You know, that will go in the official record. You know, and then we have the wonderful Ken Clarke video. I don't know whether other people have seen it. You know, in which he's there together and he's saying, you know, well, you know, she's a bloody awful woman, Theresa May, but you know, we work for
I thought it was great.
It's all right. It's all right. It will be all right so long as she doesn't deliver on all these things that she's promised. I mean, this is the world of politics, really. I mean, you know, and the illusion is that, you know, we put people in and we trust them. And of course, this is why everybody's so angry with Tony Blair. You know, the majority voted him in, and actually he hasn't been doing what we expected, what he promised, and what he expected, what we expected him to do. You know, in fact, he's acted in a very self-interested kind of way.
I'm just seeing what Kevin has said. There's the world of politics because we, the people, allow it. I mean, the point is that, for example, 4 of us can get online with others this morning and have a real-time conversation where we are not prevented from having or sharing our opinions. And that is the wonderful gift that technology has brought to our age, is the ability to have a parallel politics, if you call it like that, or parallel conversations where people can inform each other. But for some reason or other, despite this enormous logistical tool, which should support critical thinking by the public, for some reason or other, you know, it's just like you look at YouTube, and YouTube is full of people looking at cats jumping off roofs. That's what the populace want to look at. They don't want to have a real conversation. So it is really true that, you know, that's what struck me about Brexit. That, okay, I'm not in England, so it wasn't my particular issue, but I realized that it was based, I presume if people in England are like me, that fundamental complacency of assumption, that I just presumed that, sure, look, at the right thing will happen. And then what happens when well, whatever. I'm not saying whether you should or shouldn't have left, but I equally feel that a lot of people who voted to relieve were equally surprised and perhaps are equally confused now about what they're going to do now that they've got what they claimed they wanted. And isn't that's, I suppose that's the frustration, that it's like before people could read, you could say, well, it was ignorance that kept them from, you know, preventing abuse. But now people can read and we can have these conversations, and yet this stuff is still going on, you know.
I keep coming across people who voted to leave who now regret it. They never expected what happened. Most of them never expected to win. They were protesting. And B, they are shocked to death when they've seen what's happened to the pound. Yeah,
it's going to get worse as well before it gets any better, if it gets better. The other thing, of course, is will we actually press the button to bring in Article 50 and leave?
I think there'll be a general election. I really do. I'm convinced in my own mind, maybe a tiny mind, but I'm convinced in my own mind that no one has the balls to press the Article 50, and that we'll end up with a general election where somebody will put in their manifesto that they will scrap the decision to exit. And they'll get enough votes that they can do it.
But I mean, doesn't that, look at, in Ireland, we had 2 or 3 referendums about Maastricht and various things, and the referendums were rerun repeatedly until the government got the answer they wanted. So, I mean, that was regarded as, in one sense, the end of
the mistake that was made was not putting a threshold on it. If they put a threshold on it, then great. But the way it was run, it could have been lost by 1 vote.
Well, funny, when I grew up in Ireland, I used to, as a kid, I thought the threshold was that
yes, Kevin.
I thought you had to have 2/3 majority. Yeah. in Ireland, I used to think you had to have 2/3 majority in a referendum,
Yeah.
but it's a straight majority in any referendum, and also irrespective of a low turnout. So if you have a turnout of 50% and you have a 51% vote in favour, you only have a 25% overall mandate. But I mean, that's what democracy is. And the question I ask in England,
Indeed. Yeah.
if you don't follow through with the results of the referendum, basically you've said that the voice of the people has no merit. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, it's not whether the right or wrong decision was made, but once, like, it looks like you need a benefactorial dictator. We all do. We just need someone who will then tell us what to do, but do the right thing.
But then we have.
In a sense, I mean, in a sense, that's why we vote people into government, really. I mean, you know, we say we actually don't want to do this ourselves, but we expect you to do it better for us, and that's why we get so angry when they don't, basically. But you know, I mean, there's a whole range of double standards in the world at the moment. I mean, I read today that Tracy Manning last night attempted to commit suicide, and Tracy Manning was this whistleblower that gave WikiLeaks the video of an Apache helicopter shooting up a van load of Reuters journalists, and then they shot up a truck that came along in order to take the wounded away. And you know, basically she got 35 years in prison for that in Fort Leavenworth, because she was in the military for telling the public about this atrocity. Whereas on the same day, Hillary Clinton has been given a clean bill of health for using an insecure internet server in order to send confidential, classified information over the internet, where it was far more, or just as likely, to fall into other hands and to be used for bad purposes. You know, and there are people on the internet, as Liam says, you know, the internet is wonderful, like the Young Turks have been talking about this today, that's saying, well, actually Tracy Manning is really an American hero, and you know, should be celebrated for informing the public about what the government have been getting up to, rather than being kind of tortured in a military prison. You know, so I think I think, you know, we are actually looking at a time in which people's rights, you know, increasingly are going to be suppressed. It may be it's always been like that, and it may be that social media actually makes it more obvious, because it gives us sort of direct access to communicate together in ways that haven't been possible before, whereas before people had to write in newspapers and journals, and people had to go and buy them and things like that. I don't know, but it seems to me that you know, over the next few years, it's more and more likely that we're going to have a public that actually feels that decisions are made out there, not for us, but actually by people, and we have less and less power.
But my concern is that will lead to either of two things: either a more critically thinking public who will respond to a call to action and become active citizens. That's the dream, in my view. But the alternative view is that will paralyze people into reaffirming their belief that they can do nothing about it, and will lead to depression within people who care, and for people who don't care, just the self-inebriation through whatever the current drug, whether it's alcohol or drugs or Sky Television or football, to just avoid having that conversation. So increasingly conversation will become devoid of meaning. And so in other words, that this wonderful tool which allows us to share this data simply gets diluted by all of the trash that is there to distract us, you know.
Yeah, there's a certain element of overload as well, isn't there? Because we're now we've got all these various sources coming. You used to get our news from newspapers, then from television, now we're getting it online, and we've got the news on YouTube, we've got the news on Facebook Live. There's so many different sources all pounding into us.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, when I first went to Turkey, I was really shocked when I got hold of a copy of Turkish National Geographic magazine, because you could find an article about people starving somewhere, and on the opposite page there would be an advertisement for a cooker or kitchenware or a cookbook or something like that. But actually, you know, over the past 15 years or so, actually our own media has done something very, very similar. So, you know, there is this kind of strange way in which, you know, we have consumer goods, a kind of luxurious goods appearing both not in print and on social media, opposite you know, discourses about the way in which people suffer in the world. And we seem to actually somehow or other being conditioned to feel that that's okay in some way. It's as if we, you know, we're being homogenized by these kind of almost opposing symbols, so that we kind of operate a sort of a meta space somewhere above that, and therefore think that it doesn't apply to us in some way. I don't know whether I'm
we agree. Now we've been going for 40 minutes, and I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us, especially Liam and Stephen, and it's a video goodbye
and
from me.
Goodbye from me.
And from
them down there.
Okay, guys, listen, I really enjoyed your company.
Okay.
I better go and cut the grass now.
I'm just going to switch the video.
Okay.
Okay.
We're going to cut the grass.
Right, guys.
Okay. See you later.
Yeah. Bye, Liam.
So thank you to everybody who's watched, and we'll see you again next week.